Some souls are born to carry the weight of the world, not because they chose it, but because they were built to rebuild it. When life brings you to a crossroad, what will you do? Some people book a flight, run away to a quiet beach, hoping the ocean waves will wash away the confusion inside them. Some people retreat inward, turn off their phones, hold their breath, and try to walk through the crisis alone, in a 7th-floor apartment in London, in Paris, or in any city where they no longer know why they're even there. But then, no matter what you choose, there's always something that doesn't leave you. It isn't loud. It has no clear shape. It just lingers, like a question repeating itself over and over. Why do I always end up in these situations? Who am I? And what do I need to keep from falling apart? Maybe you felt it before, that you came into this world to carry something bigger than yourself. No one ever told you that, but you just knew. Through your intuition, through the choices that forced you to grow up too soon, through the way you had to be strong, even when no one asked you to. And if you carry the energy of the number 8 in numerology, this is not an illusion. You are living out a very specific lesson, a lesson tied to Saturn, the planet of limits, discipline, karma, and spiritual evolution. And you don't have to be a Capricorn to live like one. If your soul chose to vibrate at the frequency of number 8, you're carrying a Capricorn archetype, a person who bears the burden of control and loss, a person constantly walking the line between power and pain, a person trying to rebuild something from a collapse no one else sees. This is where numerology and astrology meet, not to predict anything, but to decode the spiritual journey you are on. You may not believe in numbers, you may not know the stars, but you cannot deny there have been far too many times when you felt you had to hold it all together just to survive, not just to live. And if you're someone like that, don't ignore this message, because the number 8 isn't just about money. It's about power, about karma, about your ability to rise again after the hardest falls, and above all, about rebirth through responsibility. Are you ready to hear what your own soul from lifetimes past chose to carry into this one? If so, let's begin. If you were born with the number 8 in your birth chart, or if your life path number is 8, this is not a coincidence. This is the soul code you chose to carry before you incarnated, and it's not an easy one to live with. Number 8 is the number of achievement, but nothing ever comes easy. Nothing is handed to those with the number 8. Everything must be earned with their own hands, from positions, possessions, respect, even love. The life of someone with number 8 often begins with loss, scarcity, or a sense of being deprived. It's not punishment, it's a process of breaking, for the purpose of rebirth. Those with number 8 often have to learn through breakdowns, losing a job right when it seemed like success was finally within reach, being betrayed by someone just as they began to trust deeply, experiencing failure in business, legal matters, or family, despite careful planning. And then, no one else but them must rise again, rebuild, alone. In astrology, this is the signature of Saturn, the planet of trials and maturity. And if Capricorn is Saturn's child, then number 8 is the embodiment of Saturn's lessons in the form of karmic contracts. You don't get pampered, you must become self-disciplined, or life will shape you through uncontrollable situations. You are not allowed to be weak, yet you are often lonely when you need someone to lean on. That's why number 8 is not born to live an easy life. Number 8 is chosen to build something solid from within. And in that journey, you are asked to learn what very few are willing to. True strength lies not in power, but in responsibility. You may dream of freedom, but you only feel at peace when you're in control. You may crave love, but fear of being hurt keeps you choosing isolation, just to avoid disappointment. And if you're still living in that shadow space, don't rush to blame yourself for being hard-headed or all cold, because it's part of the code. And in the next part, you'll understand why the energy of number 8 holds such a dangerous dark side if you're not conscious enough to master it. Not everyone born with number 8 becomes successful. On the contrary, if you're not conscious enough, the energy of 8 may become the very thing that devours you. Why? Because number 8 is not just the number of control. It's the ultimate test of your relationship with power, and power is a double-edged sword. It can elevate you into leadership, but it can also make you a victim of yourself before you even realize it. The shadow of number 8 is a kind of desperation disguised as toughness. You don't allow yourself to be weak. You don't ask for help. You don't want anyone to know you're exhausted. Gradually, you live like a machine, responsible, hardworking, always trying to stay in control. But inside, you're still a child who has never been comforted. In astrology, this is why number 8 often resonates deeply with Scorpio, the sign of hidden pain and transformative rebirth. You're great at keeping secrets. You're tough, resilient. But when everything falls apart, you sink deeper than anyone else, because you don't just lose, you lose what you've bled to build. And in that abyss, the shadow of number 8 rises like a survival instinct. You try to control others because you can't control yourself anymore. You become cold and harsh because you're terrified of being hurt again. You become obsessed with money or status because only when you have enough do you feel safe. But don't you see the paradox? You long for freedom, yet you lock yourself in chains that you forged on your own. The chains of responsibility no one asked you to bear. The chains of expectation you're too afraid to release. The chains of always needing to be strong just to avoid being judged. And so number 8 gradually becomes addicted to power as a way to fill the emptiness. You can't tell anymore what is ambition and what is fear. You succeed, but you're not fulfilled. You win, but no one truly understands you. But the shadow is only half of the journey. If you're brave enough to face it, you can transform your chains into wings. And next, we'll explore exactly how to do that. How to decode the greatest lesson number 8 bring and break the karmic contract of Saturn in your life. Do you know the most ironic thing about number 8? The more you try to control it, the more you lose control. The more you want everything to go your way, the more life throws you into lessons beyond your reach. Because number 8 isn't here to teach you how to be the boss of others. It's here to test, can you master yourself? In numerology, number 8 represents power, money, and success. But behind all that glamour lies a karmic challenge to learn how to take responsibility without being overbearing, to carry weight without breaking under it, to lead without becoming a slave to ambition. This is also the deepest lesson that Saturn, Capricorn's ruling planet, always imposes. In astrology, Saturn doesn't hand out easy rewards. It delays, limits, makes you stumble. So you are forced to ask, what am I building, for whom, and at what cost? If you carry the energy of number 8, you'll often find yourself in situations like taking on more than you need to, holding it all together so nothing falls apart, trying to control the outcome out of fear of failure. But life doesn't reward those who control best. Life rewards those who take responsibility in the right way. Responsibility means you don't run away, but you also don't force things. You give your best, but you don't lose yourself. You're honest about your own limits, and you trust a greater process at work. Just like Capricorn, the pinnacle symbol of number 8's energy. The higher you climb, the deeper your roots must grow. The more ambitious you are, the more you must stay morally grounded. And the stronger you become, the more you need inner peace to avoid isolation. Once you grasp the true lesson of number 8, you'll realize no one is born to endure life. You're here to rise above your past self, but not by forcing yourself to take more hits, rather by decoding your wounds around power, burden, and trust. And it's exactly when you release your need to control that you begin the most beautiful journey of number 8 to become a guide, not a solitary warrior. In the next part, we'll explore the sacred transformation, When number 8 awakens, the entire bloodline rises, because the journey of number 8 was never meant to be just a personal one. There's a truth about number 8 that few ever speak of. You don't live just for yourself. You're living for everything left unhealed in your family. For the wounds your parents didn't have the strength to face, for the dreams your grandparents buried long ago, and for the generational burdens you were chosen to break. In numerology, number 8 represents karma and generational transformation. You didn't come here just to build material success. You came to shift the scales, to end toxic cycles around power, money, and recognition, and to begin a new legacy, grounded, wise, sustainable. In astrology, this echoes the polarity between Capricorn and Cancer. One seeks achievement, the other returns to roots. One climbs higher, the other digs deeper. True awakening only happens when you turn inward and heal where you come from. Have you ever asked yourself, why was I born into this family? Why am I the reluctant pillar? Why do all the pressures, the burdens of the expectations that fall on me? Because you were chosen not to carry the debt, but to transform it. And no, you don't have to save your family. You just have to awaken, to heal yourself, to become the highest version of who you are. And that alone is enough to end generations of repetition. When number 8 awakens, you no longer lead through force, but through wisdom and heart. You no longer try to change others because your own change radiates naturally. You no longer chase the world's throne because you know what you're truly building is a legacy. And this is the deepest transformation of number 8, from bearer of burden to creator of generational worth. So, if life feels unbearably harsh or unfair, if you feel like you're doing too much with no recognition, if you always seem to be the strongest, calmest, most reliable one, that's a sign you're in the middle of an upgrade. Not a career upgrade, a soul upgrade. In the next part, we'll explore the financial mission of number 8, building wealth without losing yourself. Because without understanding the role of money, number 8 can easily be pulled off its path of awakening. Number 8 was born to master money, but money was never the final goal. It is only a tool, a test, a refiner's fire for your courage, values, and inner wisdom. You can make money, a lot of it, but the real question is, what will you do with it? Some number 8s become wealthy and then lose it all. Some succeed only to self-destruct from stress, loneliness, or greed because they understand money, but not themselves, because they manage assets, but cannot manage their inner world. In astrology, this is the shadow side of Capricorn, climbing the peak, but at the cost of emotion, time, and life itself. They win, but there's nothing left to celebrate. If you carry the number 8, you have a special mission to redefine what it means to be wealthy, not just in money, but in values, in wisdom, in character, in impact. Because if you don't, you'll fall into the trap of working from fear, not from purpose, making money to prove your worth, not to fulfill your mission, building an empire only to imprison yourself inside it. So how do you know you're on the right path with money? You feel peaceful, even with many goals ahead. You build without manipulating. You create real value instead of chasing appearances. And you dare to give when needed because you're no longer afraid to lose. That's when you've stepped into a new level of financial awakening. Money no longer pulls you away from yourself. On the contrary, it helps you express your true self fully. In the hands of number 8, money is not just power, it is responsibility. The responsibility to lift others, to shift systems, to build something that outlives the self. Like a true leader, you don't need to stand above everyone. You only need to stand firm, think long-term, and lead with heart. That alone is enough for others to follow. In the next part, we'll face one of the deepest questions. Why is number 8 often lonely? And what's really happening behind that untouchable strength of yours? You are strong, you are resilient, you don't break easily, and that is exactly why you feel alone. Not everyone understands the weight you carry. Not everyone can keep up with the pace, the intensity, and the standards you set. So gradually, you learn to do it alone. You grow used to independence. You start believing no one really stays except myself. Loneliness doesn't come from the lack of people. It comes from the lack of understanding. For number 8, loneliness is an invisible tax of power. Just like Capricorn in astrology, the higher you climb, the thinner the air, and no one can stay with you long unless they share your vision. The danger lies here. You feel lonely, but won't allow yourself to be vulnerable. You feel pain, but hide it in silence. You miss someone, but say, with a cold tone, I'm fine. Day after day, you build a shell, not to fight the world, but to protect the last piece of human left in someone carrying too much responsibility. But you don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to brace yourself to be the pillar for everyone. You too deserve someone peaceful enough for you to lay down all your armor, deep enough not to need long explanations, and brave enough to stay, even when you're no longer perfect. The strange thing is, only when you dare to admit you also need love will you attract the right one, the right connection, the right soul. Because in astrology, Capricorn is not only the climber of mountains, but also the seeker of a true home within the soul. And in numerology, number 8 will remain lonely unless you learn to put down your armor and trust in gentleness. Loneliness is a natural part of the number 8 journey, but it is not the final destiny. You have the power to choose to keep living like a fortress or become a leader with a heart. Up next, we'll go into the deepest realm, when number 8 loses direction, the silent crises no one else sees. Number 8 was not born to live a small life. They came into this world like a sleeping dragon, carrying within them the power to command, to build, and to shape reality. But they must first pay a high price before they can wield that gift the right way. That price is a numbing kind of loneliness, to be misunderstood, to be opposed, and at times to be tested by life to the edge of breaking. But when number 8 awakens, they are no longer obsessed with power. They become someone who serves through power, no longer needing to prove anything, and they become steady as a mountain. Instead of trying to control others, they learn to master themselves. Instead of striving to win, they begin to build things of lasting value. And from that very moment, number 8 begins to experience real wealth, not just material wealth, but the richness of influence, of leadership, of endurance, and of deep, unwavering faith. They understand that to stand on the summit, one must dare to cross the cliffs. To create something eternal, one must be willing to break the old ego. The success of number 8, therefore, is never random. It is the result of iron discipline, of pain transmuted into gold, and of a solitary journey no one ever truly sees. If you carry the number 8 in your birth chart, or if you find yourself resonating with Capricorn energy, always bearing responsibility, always driven by something greater than yourself, then it's no coincidence you're hearing this message. Maybe you're somewhere in the middle of your journey, still entangled in past wounds, torn between the desire to control and the fear of loss, still unable to let go of some image you think you have to become. But remember this, number 8 didn't come here to live safely. You came to break an outdated system and rebuild something more worthy. You're not just a mountain climber, you are the mountain, steadfast, stoic, yet burning inside with the lava of a soul that longs for truth, for depth, and for real value. True success is not the summit that everyone sees, it's the inner freedom you gain after walking through the darkness, mastering your inner strength, and knowing who you are in the chaos of this world. And if today you still find yourself walking alone, be patient, because number 8, like Capricorn, doesn't bloom in spring, they bloom in winter, when the world is asleep, and you are the only one left standing to light yourself from within. If this message speaks to you, let us know in the comments, how much of yourself do you see in the number 8? Maybe it's your life path number, maybe it's just how you've always lived. Strong, responsible, relentless. Tell us below. And don't forget to subscribe for more soulful content like this. You're not alone on this path. This space is for the ones who carry silent strength.